All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Urban Nation, the podcast where we bring you stories of triumph, innovation, and growth. I'm your host, Terrell Simmons, and today we are truly man, let me tell you, this lady, she's a Renaissance woman. She's a lot of things. I was researching her on LinkedIn. I don't know how to explain this in words. Open adoption coach, best-selling author, real estate broker, actor, voiceover artist, mother. She makes a mean calzone, I heard.
Yeah.
And she's just truly inspirational. And her story of just turning personal challenges into the beacon of hope for many hopefully resonates with all of you out there. Joining us is, I don't know why I want to say Ayo Haynes. Did I put the right emphasis on it? Did I say it right?
Look, you're Nigerian, so you say it like the Nigerian. That's right. You say it better than I say it.
We was just having a whole conversation in the green room. We'll catch you guys up on that. But she has a remarkable open adoption coach journey and tips and so forth for single women. She herself has navigated the complex journey of being a mother in her 40s through adoption. After enduring years of fertility treatments, today she's here to share her profound insights and the beauty of open adoption. So it's wonderful to have you, sis. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I am wonderful. I'm so excited to be here chatting with you, and thank you for the wonderful and warm open. That makes me feel so good right there. We should just end it right now. I'm good.
All right. All right. So my sister,
Yes.
we had a whole conversation in the green room. How did you get this Nigerian name?
Well, I actually thought that I got my name from my dad because he was a musician. He traveled all over the world. He loved Africa. But it turns out I got my name from my mother. And I didn't find that out until my
Ah,
30s. And Ayo, as you probably know, as a Nigerian, means joy. And usually people who
that,
are named Ayo, it's like Ayo Dele, Ayo something. I'm just Ayo.
uh-huh.
But
Because you're just full of
I'm full
joy.
of joy. You
You
know
you
what?
bring joy to everybody.
I always say it's a wonderful name to aspire to on a daily basis. I may not get there every
Uh-huh.
day, but it certainly is a mark on my life as to who I should try to be. And so that's my name.
I love that.
Thank you.
That's your name. And we had a whole conversation. I knew I had to get that piece in there, and just like you bring joy to the world, you're gonna show a whole bunch of amazing young women out there, or women who are striving to bring joy into their life through having somebody to love and care for if they're going through the process. When I first reached out to interview you, I thought I was going to do a whole bunch of other stuff, but we're going to talk strictly about this process you've been through. And I did a little bit of research, and I started going down this rabbit hole of how it seems like a lot of women who are in their career state of mind and have been delaying, I guess child birthing and motherhood.
Right?
And there's a lot. It seems like it's been on the rise now, and I'm not sure if this is true or not. Where um, the use of more fertility clinics and more mothers waiting to the later half and having trouble with pregnancy is have you found as you begun this journey that you find more women that need your services or are experiencing this in their life?
Absolutely. I always say that, in my 20s, I thought there was plenty of time. And in my 30s, I was building a really successful real estate career. And then before I knew it, I was in my 40s and I was like, OMG, what happened with the
Mm,
time? And then I have to deal with the fact that the natural occurrence of a woman in her 40s has happened, right? You're just not as fertile. Um, and so
yeah.
I had to make a decision. Would I live the rest of my life without a child? Could I make that happen? And would I be okay with that? And then I just had a really serious talk with myself. And I said, you know what? This has always been a dream of mine. It's always been my love. I've always wanted to be a mother. So that is my life non
Mhm.
negotiable. I'm not willing to live my life without being a mother. And so that took me down that
Yeah.
fertility journey, and it was very costly. And, the odds were already stacked against me in my 40s going that route. And
Hmm.
I wish doctors would just be very honest and almost cold to the point of saying, you know what, this is going to cost you a lot of money, may not work, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of hormones to put in your body. But I went ahead and I
Yeah.
went the IUI route, I went the IVF route, and I finally heard from God, and it was the word that I got was, this is not how I intended for you to be a mother. I intend for you to be a mother, but not this route. And I knew that
Hmm.
if I kept pushing that route of fertility, of me birthing my own child, that I might end up with an outcome that I did not envision for myself as a mother, right? And as a single woman, I'm a real estate agent.
Hmm.
I work for myself. I'm a 1099 worker. So I really could not
Yeah.
have a sick pregnancy. I couldn't have a sick child. That's not how I envisioned my life as a mother. I mean, other people, if that's works for you, then it works for you. So that was when I decided to go the adoption route. And it was an
Hmm.
incredible route to take. And as a single woman, I was told that I was going to have to wait over a year and a half. And it's,
Wow. A year and a
yeah,
half?
because I was single. Yes. And
Wow.
so, as you can imagine, the thought process of someone thinking of adopting or giving up a child for adoption is that they probably want a mother and a father for their child, And so,
Hmm.
um, couples tend to rise to the top more so than a single person, especially, well, a single woman, right? And
Hmm.
then if you add the layer of a Black woman, you're really adding on to that. And so I said, okay, if that's the timeline, if that's the game, okay, I'm going to play the rules, but I'm going to try to speed up the process as much as I can. And to your point about women, um, especially Black women, we the more education we have, the less
Hmm.
pregnancies we tend to have, and the longer it takes for
Hmm.
us to really start a family, right? We are working hard in the
Hmm.
workplace. We're trying to manage many different things within the workplace. And we push off motherhood until late. And then we realize, or that
Hmm.
we may not have found the right person, right, to have a family. And
Yeah.
and I found myself in that position where I was looking for the right guy, but not finding the right guy. And I said, well, I could make some kind of decision that would not necessarily be the best long term and settle, or I
Hmm.
can really do this on my own terms without setting up another situation that would not be beneficial later on. And so that's how I finally decided I was going to do this by myself.
Yeah, I want to dive a little deeper into those challenges because I mean, there's many, especially as you mentioned for Black women, but navigating the adoption process, especially those challenges for a single woman. What were this must have been posed like so many significant challenges. Let's unpack the layers of that. Like, what are the layers that, whether it be the system, whether it be people's bias, assumptions that really impact single women trying to go through adoption? Could you share some of those hurdles?
Well,
And how did you overcome them?
one of the things is that we have all been programmed that adoption is this other thing that you do when all else fails, right? When you didn't get married or you tried fertility, then you have adoption, right? And so I wish that narrative was different. And that's the kind of work that I'm doing, is to change that narrative, to say that, this is something to pursue pretty much from the beginning if it works for your life. I found that with
Mhm,
fertility, it was an if I would be a mother, whereas adoption was just a when. And so,
mhm,
when you go on the fertility route, let's just start there. That's just so incredibly costly. It's taxing on your body. There's the up and
mhm,
downs of, am I pregnant or not, taking tests after test. Um, it's a lot of manipulation within your body. It's not
mm.
natural. Now with
Yeah.
um, adoption, the layers are. first unpacking what you don't know about the process. And we have been programmed to think that adoption is this fearful thing, that the birth mother is going to take the child back. So it's a very apprehensive type of way to start your journey into motherhood. I think that's the biggest thing I started with, is like, what am I getting myself into long term, even? Am I going to get a healthy
Mhm.
child? And am I going to have drama with the birth parent? And you have to go and really interview at these different agencies to see if it's a fit
Mhm.
for you and for them. Like, do they now? So I've been a mother for 9 years now. My daughter, I
Mhm.
had her, I was able to be there at the time that she was born, in the emergency, I mean, the labor and delivery room. So 9 years later, it is even more acceptable, and these agencies are okay with single women adopting, or single parents adopting. You have to get a home study. They look into your finances.
Mhm.
They want to see if you have insurance. They see what kind of job you have, who's in the household. Do you have a room for that child that's separate from everybody else? So it's very invasive on a economical level and personal space level,
Mhm.
but it's one of those things that you have to do, because if not, any crazy person could decide that they want to have a child and adopt a child, and who knows what would happen after
Yeah.
that. So more so, it's a lot of wading through the process. Home studies take time.
Mhm.
Fingerprinting takes time. It has to go to DC, and they have to do their homeland security check, and it's just waiting and waiting. And so you're like, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. And you just
Yeah.
don't know if that birth mother is going to select you from all the other people that have been presented to her, uh, or to them to select from.
Yeah. Sounds like a really intensive process. When you were earlier, you talked about there's a couple things that's going through my head, and sometimes I go through these tangents, so please forgive
No
me.
problem.
When you talk about the challenges of a single woman and the challenges of, I'm also thinking of a black women in the whole process. And the thing that comes to mind for me is, because I do equity, diversity, inclusion
Right,
work, and one of the things that I remember having a conversation on, the for the past 3 years is, and this is national data that's ready available for everybody, that shows like how black women go through the birthing process, how the mortality rate of black women, of something that should be very simple and easy compared to white women, how they died in the giving birth process, right? And that has a lot to do with the societal challenges, systemic challenges of, oh, they can endure more pain and so
right,
forth, and that's why they don't get the proper treatment, they're not listened to, they're not heard, and they have these tragedies during giving birth. And I'm thinking about what societal changes or societal challenges or changes need to happen for black women specifically to not endure any challenges in the adoption process, right? And those I mean, what do you feel like, in your honest opinion? I know you don't have the answers to everything, but what things do we have to change to change these mindset and thinking or processes to make it just really more inclusive and um not as taxing?
right. Well, it's funny, because when I was in my 20s starting my acting career, one of the jobs that I did get was working for Mount Sinai Hospital, which is a large hospital in New York. And they hired me to play a lupus patient in her early 20s complaining of pain.
Yeah.
And this was to train doctors, new doctors, on how to interact with patients. And the write up that they gave me is that you're in pain. It's joint pain, because lupus happens to attack the joints. Um, but that they would not believe me when I go in, right? And these were real doctors. They were just telling me what was going to happen, but I had to play my role. And you would be so surprised at when I told the doctor, the young doctor, that I was in pain, that I had joint pain, that they would actually squeeze the joints and say, "Does this hurt?" Or they would say, "Well, how many children do you have?" Assuming that I had children just because I was Black, right? Going into exactly what you're talking about. So
Hmm.
that work already prepared me for this kind of advocacy that I do. And what you're talking about is actually what um, doulas do for pregnant women, right? They protect
Hmm.
or inform
Yeah.
and empower the pregnant woman on how to have their rights preserved while at the hospital and have their birth plan protected and adhere to in advance. And so it's written in all of
Hmm.
that, and they're there to enforce that. And Black women who are
Hmm.
pregnant should be using doulas for exactly that. And so, what I'm
Hmm.
saying is that as an open adoption coach specifically, we'll talk about that part later, but as an
Hmm.
adoption coach, I'm like the doula in that hospital with you,
Mm.
right? I'm preparing you before to know what all the challenges are, and emotionally, physically, spiritually, even on a basis where you're having conversations with the adoption agency and they want you to take a child that is not how you visualize being a mother. You know, they might want you to take a child that has special needs
Mhm,
when you have said, "I'm sorry, I'm not able to take or adopt a special needs child." Right? There's a lot
mhm,
of um, pressure that can be exerted from the adoption agency, from a social worker, throughout the entire process. And if you don't know and stick true to what it is that you want as a
mhm,
mother and as an adoptive mother, you could feel very turned around in the process and frustrated. And so that's what I'm here to do,
mhm.
to help guide.
Nah, that has a nice ring to it, like the doula adoption. Your doula adoption mother or your doula adoption coach. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in there.
Yeah,
I was like, man, that got a nice ring to it. I like it. You know, um, I'm glad that you mentioned doula because one of my other things that I got to study too, and have a good conversation with another doula about how um doulas were so important in the in giving birth in US history and society, especially post slavery, because the role that they played uh really helped make sure that the pregnancy was healthy, and then that transition and all of that stuff, right? Because of the role they played. And it wasn't until you know through Western medicine and capitalism and so forth that they tried to reduce that role, and find a way to capitalize financially in the healthcare system, and replace nurses and so forth, that we transitioned away from doulas. So it had nothing to do with bettering healthcare. It had more to do with capitalism than anything.
absolutely.
That those roles started to get weeded out. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that. Um, I'm also thankful that you were successful in your approach. And I know many women are going to look at this and it's like, all right, you were obviously successful. You got a 9-year old, and you were successful in your approach. Um, because you've got what they're looking for now in this process. So what strategies did you find most effective, and could you share a story that highlights the impact of those efforts?
Yes. So, you know what I didn't have is a doula, right? I'm still becoming, right? There was no one there to advocate for me. So I had to advocate for myself. I did a lot of research. I went and talked to as many different agencies as I could. I talked to doctors, just medical doctors, to help me make a decision about even formula, if I was going to do formula. Um, I just became my own doula. I researched. And so now I've compiled all this. And the time that it took me, the dollars that it took me to get the answers, I don't want somebody else to have to go through all of that, right? It's just, we have better things to focus ourselves on. And I'm all from the school of thought that we just do what the successful person before you did. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so, because I didn't have a
Mhm.
real good model, I had one person, my cousin, who did it before me, and she did it by herself, where she didn't tell anyone she adopted because she was fearful that the birth mother would change her
Mhm.
mind. So she called me on day 29 out of 30, the 30-day waiting period, to tell me that she had adopted a child on her own. And so that kind of fear, where I'm saying with the adoption process, we don't need to have that be our fuel. We should turn the narrative around so that
Mhm.
we are in control of the process. And so, what I end up doing, a great tip besides research, I got rid of the middleman after a while. I wanted all this
Mm.
information from my social worker that she couldn't give me. And it just so happened that
Mhm.
the day of my daughter's birth, I was in the waiting room with her birth grandmother. And it was a tearful time, but we connected. And little by little, I was introduced to more of the family. And so the agreement that we came to was, it wasn't actually bad at all getting to know you. Or the in between people, the intermediaries can make the process so much more angst filled than if you just had a one on
Mm.
one conversation with the other side. And once we were able to have a conversation heart to heart, one, we realized that we really did like each other and we respected each other. And my promise from the very beginning, even in my bulletin that I created to give to the birth parent for them to select me out of all the others that were presented to them, I always said, I want your child to know who you are. I want your child to know how amazing you are. And I know that one day there will be a time when we will all meet again and we will love each other. I mean, and that resonated with that child, my daughter's birth mother,
Mhm.
who was very young. Um, and I remember
Mhm.
the agency I was contracted with when I wrote this language of that was spiritually based. They said to me, "You need
Mhm.
to get rid of that. These girls don't understand that." That's what they said. They don't understand that. Get rid of that. I s-
That's because they don't understand our culture. Like,
exactly.
a lot of us are really spiritual people, and we are community based people too. So we would, like, it goes back to old times. If you go to my grandma's house in South Carolina, Greensville, and you show up and you whatever you doing, they're gonna be like, "Whose child is this?" Right? Because we have a sense of community, and
Absolutely.
we want to go back to who whose child is this, right? So we got the connection and we know who we dealing with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I said to them, well, the mother who reads this is going to get it, and she's going to understand my heart, because I truly believe that God put both of us together for her to be able to provide me with the child that I've always wanted. And that
Mm.
resonated with her. So when the social worker called me to say that I had been selected out of all the people presented and they were all couples, Terrell, I hit the floor. I could not believe it. I mean, I just praised God. I was like, only you, God, right? And it didn't take a year and a
Mhm.
half. It took 4 months from the time I turned in my paperwork. So that was
Right.
God, because I stayed true to myself. I didn't let someone tell me how to be in this process. I took the information in and then I said, does this work for me or does this work for me? Okay. And
Right.
from that, I made my own decisions and I just stayed true to my heart and to who I was as a person, that do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I would want
Mm.
this young girl, if I was in her position, I would want someone to say, If you want pictures, if you want to see or know about your child, I have no problem giving you that. And I hope that we can have a relationship later down on the line. And it worked. And it was sincere.
Mm.
It wasn't a
Uh,
game, it was true. And so nine
nice.
years later, we still have a relationship. And every year we get together on
I
her
love
birthday,
that.
my daughter's birthday, and celebrate the day we all met.
I love that. I love that. I know you said. Now I'm curious about the timeline because the key thing you said there, taking out the middleman and being true to yourself. I hear that as well. The process you said about 4 months that it took you, like in the normal process, if you went with the social worker and you didn't take things into your own accord and so forth, and if you're doing the whole process from front to back, usually roughly how much time do they say usually takes through that whole process?
Well, it definitely takes. We talked about how, as a single mother, I was told it was going to be at least a year and a half. And when I want to be clear, I didn't eliminate the social worker because
Hmm.
you can't if you're doing an adoption through a an
Okay.
agency. If you're doing a private adoption with just an attorney, then yes, you can get rid of the social worker, but there will be some interaction with some outside person just to make sure that you're, who you say you are and what you are. But what I did was I stopped um, relying solely on her being the middle person. Once it was a
Mm.
place where the middle person was no longer needed, then that was something that we all, both sides agreed, let's just go one on one with each other. But it's a laborious process. So it's as long as it takes for you to do your home study and get all of your financial documents together, fill out your paperwork, as long as it takes for the government to send back your fingerprints and say that you are not a terrorist and on this list or that list. So there are certain things you cannot speed up to a point. But then the other
Yeah.
things, it just comes down to a birth parent finding you within that agency and deciding that you are the one that she wants to have as her daughter or her son's forever mother.
Hmm.
So when I say that, um, I should say also that because I'm a real estate agent and I have,
Hmm.
been successful, and you're basically a project manager when you're in real estate, right? So when they told me it was going to be a
Yeah.
year and a half, I was like, all right, bet. I know how to speed up this process on my end. So I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And then there's crickets waiting for the social worker to call or for this to happen. And this, I'm like, that you cannot
Uh-huh.
control. And so there was a level of
Yeah.
such frustration that came over me at one point. Um, I heard God say, baby girl, take your hands off the steering wheel. The child that I have waiting for you is not ready yet. Just relax. And once
Mm.
I did that and said, you know what? He didn't bring me this far for me to not have success in this process. I'm going to relax. And it was then
Mhm.
that everything just fell into place. So that where I thought I had a year and a half, I had I was given a span of, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, it could be this or that, because they didn't know her due date. So my head
Mhm.
was spinning. I literally had only a
Yeah.
few months to get it together, to buy stuff for the baby. But amazing, an amazing journey throughout the whole process.
Nah, I love that. It looking back on your journey, what would you say are the most valuable lessons you've learned? And what advice would you give to other single women who are considering motherhood through open adoption? I know one of them, I can hear it in my head right now. Find you an adoption doula.
Exactly. Exactly. I might have to go and register that.
Right.
Because it's so true. You don't know what you don't know. And again, there are so many women who are spending thousands of dollars trying to get
Mhm.
pregnant through fertility. And again, for my estimation, fertility is an if, depending on your age. adoption is
Mhm.
just a win, right? So if you are in your 40s and your FSH levels are low, and you know what that is if you are already in the process of trying to be a mother, then adoption is a great avenue to pursue. Um, it's not, it was so funny. I used to realize when I would talk to people and I would tell them that I'm a single mother, right? I used to use the term single mother by choice, and that's still out there.
Mhm.
Um, and that for me, I would always say, I knew it was going to be hard, but I had no idea how hard. And I don't want to make it look like it's just roses and everything is great. Because as a single person, a single parent is a single parent. You're still not having that other set of hands, eyes, everything, resources. So if you're a single
Mhm.
mother, if you're a single woman and you're looking to become a mother, just assess your lifestyle. Are you willing to change your
Mhm.
lifestyle? Do you have a support system? Are you financially able to take on the process because it is costly? And can you support your child afterwards? And there are different ways to become an adoptive mother. Are you going to go domestic or international? Are you open to a child with special needs, a boy or girl? There's so many different questions that you need to ask yourself that in this process so that you have clarity, because the last thing you want when having doubts come at you, friends and family going, "Are you sure you want to go this route? What do you know about the birth mother?" And everybody's an expert all of a sudden, right? You have to
Well, ain't they? Especially in our families,
ab-
everybody become an expert at telling you what you can, what you can't do, what you don't, what you should be doing. I was like, Lord of mercy.
absolutely, absolutely. So you cannot be tossed to and fro, because in this process, that's already built in. It's already a rocky
Mhm.
ship. The journey is on the open seas. So get your life preserver on, right? Listen to your captain, and that would be me, right? I'm going to tell you which direction to go in, what your options are. You can go left, but this is here. You can go right. I am the person who is going to be able to, from my own experience, give you really good wisdom and insights that once you get through the journey, that's a whole other journey, right? Raising your child and making sure that that child does not have the hangups that some adopted children can have, right? Which is dealing with rejection or loss. And so, people would always say to me, "Did you tell her that she's adopted?" And I said, "Of course I did." "Why did you tell her?" I said, "Why wouldn't I tell my daughter that she's adopted? It would be the worst kept secret in the world. And so, why should everyone else be in on the secret except for her? And why are we making it a secret? There's no shame around it. Secrets mean shame or connotate shame. And there's no
Mm.
shame on how I built my family. There's only goodness
Mm.
and love that helped me build this family by someone else having being pregnant and choosing me to be their child's forever mother, right? So there's no shame. I'm changing the
Yeah.
narrative. I want you to change the narrative. The people who are looking at this as like, what will people say? Who cares what people will say? What do you say? What
Mm.
does your heart say to you when you go to sleep at night? What does your heart say to you at the end of your lifetime and you look back on what I could have, should have, but I didn't because I was afraid of what they would say and my dad would say? No, no, this is your life. And the blessings that come from being an adoptive mother to seeing your child thrive. It's funny for me when people say, "Oh, you two look so much alike." And the amazing thing is that we do. That's how God worked it
Yeah.
out, right? But
It is.
it's that kind of changing the narrative for yourself. Decide what it is that you want. What is your life non-negotiable? If it is that you are not willing to leave this life without being a mother, then bless a child and open your home, right? I also think that this kind of work and this kind of being an adoptive mother
Hmm.
has such impact on our community specifically because we know that
Hmm.
Planned Parenthood is overrepresented in brown and black communities for a reason. Now
Yeah.
imagine that this young mother, or it could be an older mother. There are a lot of mothers who are giving up a children in their 30s. The family structure does not allow for them to have another child, but they to give them another option other than terminating a pregnancy. I can't even imagine how rich our community would be with
Mm.
more incredible children being given the life that will help them to thrive and change this world, right? And I think
Yeah.
it will also reduce the number of parents, birth parents, who may consider adoption and then say, no, that's not for me, whether they keep the child or terminate, because now they know that they will be able to see their child grow up. It's not them wondering as they pass
Hmm.
a child on the street, is that my son? Is that my daughter? They actually can tell and see and interact with that child. And I think that will actually help the black and brown communities increase the number of children that are not terminated or not raised in families that are not
Hmm.
ideal based on the economics or whatever else is going on, but can be raised in
Yeah.
households that are nurturing and they're so wanted.
Nah, I was just you bring up a good point there, and two things that come to mind for me is what you said about there's no shame in it, right? And then especially if you choose Ayo as your doula for adoption, you are only bringing joy into your life.
Amen.
See what I
I
did
love
there?
it.
No pun intended.
Yes, yes.
um, but I'm also thinking about the current situation we have in the U.S. as well, where our you know our Supreme Courts took back the right in so many different ways of mothers to choose that uh the process to choose away from them, and those who may have kids that they weren't ready for, no matter what the reasons, allowing for the system to be able to provide that child with a loving and caring home so they don't get lost in the system, whether it be the prison system, the the adoption system, the what other systems
Yeah.
out there. It could provide another way, right? um because we have far too many broken homes because people who are ready and willing to provide a loving home don't have a way to reach these individuals and to connect with them so that we can heal and progress our communities forward. And I see this truly from the way you're saying it as a way forward. And so I'm glad that we have people like you who've been blessed with the vision and now can be a guide for others. So I'm so thankful and grateful for you and for you sharing your story and insight. Um, for your journey and insights that are incredibly inspiring. For those who are interested in learning more about open adoption or connecting with you, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me at openadoptionsuccess.com.
And
Yes. Open Adoption Success.
I was gonna say, and I heard you might got a
Yes,
special
yes.
treat for
The
our
adoption
listeners too. So
doula.
go ahead, wrap all that up. I'm sorry to be the yeah. Go ahead. Give them the breakdown again. Give them the breakdown again. I messed up your whole
That
speech.
is
Go ahead.
okay. That is okay. Look, so they can always find me at openadoptionsuccess.com. I do have a free course that I'm giving for single women who are looking to explore whether this is the way for them to become a mother. And it's called, how to, the Single Woman's Blueprint for Adoption. And it will help you understand and navigate the path to becoming a mother, to find the child that's waiting just for you, because there is a child waiting just for you. And yes, there are all sorts of things happening in this world, in this country, to separate us. But really, we are here to connect with each other. And imagine that a young mother or a young woman in a situation that she doesn't know how she's going to manage would have the option
Mm,
to have her child be given up for adoption and have a relationship with it further down the line on your terms, but something that is mutually beneficial for not only the birth parent, the adoptive parent, but most especially for the well being of that child. You will see that this world is a better place because there's another option for you, for the adoptive parent, and for you as a single woman. If your life non-negotiable is to be a mother, join that free class. I'm happy to talk with people. They can always set up a phone call with me. Go to openadoptionsuccess.com and let's start the conversation.
I love it. And then for those who are driving, don't worry. I'm gonna put all the links in the show notes for you so that you can connect. Thank you,
Yes.
Ayo Haynes, for joining us and sharing your powerful story. To our listeners, if if Ayo's journey has touched you or sparked interest in open adoption, remember to explore this incredible option. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode to help spread the word about the possibilities that open adoption can offer. Stay tuned for more episodes that celebrate resilience and transformation. Until next time, keep rising.
See you later.